you want straight edges on your project every single time by eliminating those turning chains, then starting stitches are the perfect solution. I'll be showing you how to do the basic stitches in this tutorial. But first of all, let's talk about what we might normally do when it comes to starting a new round or a new row with the same colour. I'll be using a UK treble as an example, which is a US double. So normally we would chain 2 or 3 depending on your tension. I'm going to chain 3. And treble in the same stitch if you're not counting that chain as a stitch, or in the next stitch if it counts as a stitch. This can either create a skinny or a bulky stitch. And it could also create this gapping or this wonky edge instead of this lovely straight edge like this, which is using starting stitches. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can achieve this really neat and tidy look with all of our basic stitches. So let's take a look at how we're going to do a starting double crochet, which is a UK term. In the US, this is single crochet. Normally we would chain 1 and then do our first stitch in this stitch just here. But what we're going to do this time is we're going to lift up our loop on the hook, not too high. You just want a slight lift on your hook. Place your finger on that loop on the hook and then go straight into that first stitch. Yarn over and pull through. You'll have your 2 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. And then this elongated chain becomes the top of the stitch. And if I add a few more double crochets into this row, you will see that you have your very first stitch just here. Now you can mark that with a stitch marker if you want to, so that you can be aware of where that last stitch is when you're working your way backwards. But this simple change can make a huge difference when you come to building your rows. So that is a starting double crochet. Now let's look at a starting half treble crochet, which is a starting half double crochet in the US. We're going to start off with the same technique as what we did for the double crochet. However, we don't need to lift this first chain up. We can just simply place our finger on that loop on the hook and go into that very first stitch. Yarn over and pull through. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. And then yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do another double crochet on top of this one. So this is also known as a stacked double crochet. We're going to work into this post just here. So we'll go into that post, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, and yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. So that is a stacked double crochet or a starting half double crochet. And then you can continue to work your stitches all the way across. I'll just add a few more here so that you can see what that stitch starts to look like when you work in a round or a row, but it just creates a really lovely stitch. We can see the top of the stitch just here, and then it flows nicely into the next stitches, giving a nice straight edge. Now let's take a look at the starting treble crochet, which is UK terms. In the US, this is a starting double crochet. We're going to lift up our loop like this, around about the same height as a treble crochet. Place your finger on that loop, and then we're going to wrap our hook around that chain, that elongated chain. We'll then go into this very first stitch, yarn over and pull through, keeping your finger on the first chain at this point, and then yarn over, pull through 2. You can let go of that chain, yarn over, pull through 2. And there we have a starting treble crochet. We can then add our treble crochets into the rest of the row. And this is what the stitch starts to look like. So here, what you might notice when you first do it is this stitch here might be a little bit loose, like so. But actually, when you work back into the stitch, working the other way, which I'll show you in just a minute, when you pull that back loop, like so, and you're working into the top of that stitch, it actually pulls it together and sits quite nicely, which you can see just here. So I'm going to go ahead and work a few more stitches and work back the other way so that I can show you how this stitch ends up looking, because I don't want you to be worried if your top loop, your top front loop looks a little bit baggy like this. Okay, so I'm at the point now where I'm going to start working into these stitches. This is where that loose chain was. So I'll continue to do the next stitch, and then we'll come to the very last stitch, which is this starting treble. So you can see that this is the loop that might look a little bit loose, but we'll go into the front and the back loop just as normal, and actually by doing that it evens out that stitch and it fixes itself, it corrects itself. So please don't worry if you see that, it does work itself out once you build your rows. Now let's take a look at a starting double treble, which is starting treble in the US. This is pretty much the same as a treble crochet, but we're going to lift our loop up to the height of a double treble. Place your finger on the loop on the hook, and then we're going to yarn over twice. Now if you don't have enough space, you can adjust your loop size, but we want to go into that first stitch and then yarn over, pull through, keeping your finger on that loop, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, let go of the loop on the hook and yarn over, pull through two, and then you can go ahead and start your double trebles across the row. Just add one more here so you can see what it looks like. So there we have it. And again with this, if you have that slightly loose chain just here, it will work itself out once you add another stitch. There is an alternative though to the double treble, and this is actually working it like a half treble, the starting half treble, where what we did is we stacked those double crochets on top of each other. So we have 1 and 2. So going into that front post, doing another stitch, and then for a double treble we can go into that front post again and add a treble crochet on top. Now this stitch in particular just looks slightly wider, and we do end up with a chain, a bit of a chain here, so it does look like a chain. However, some people might struggle with wrapping the yarn around the elongated chain twice, so this is just an alternative if you wanted to use this method instead. And this is what it looks like just here. So as you can see, this can really make a difference to the look of your work, but you may still be having an issue if there are tension problems throughout your work. If you want to learn a little bit more about your own personal tension and what that can look like, then I suggest you take a look at this video right here for all the hints and tips.